for patterns, tricks, stitches and tips, wands and needles, embroidery.
In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the step-by-step process that I use to apply fabric paint in place of stitching the skin of the ballerina when making wearables and other functional items. To begin, I print out my pattern template onto a sheet of stick and stitch, and then I cut out just the arms and back of the ballerina to create a bit of a DIY stencil for applying my fabric paint. I find that the stick and stitch actually works surprisingly well at creating a bit of a barrier for the paint, and it allows me to create the nice crisp lines for the ballerina's skin. Once I've finished cutting that out, I can go ahead and remove the paper backing and center it on my fabric. I can also reposition that as necessary to make sure that everything's lined up properly. To finish up, I'm going to press down around the area I cut out to ensure a good seal. You want to make sure to select a high quality fabric paint, such as this Neopaque fabric paint by Jacquard. I find that it has really good coverage even on darker fabrics, and I love that it remains really flexible as it dries. To apply my paint, I'm using a fine tipped round number 2 brush. And I find that this smaller brush really gives me good control and precision with my paint, and it's also going to naturally limit the amount of paint on my brush, which will help me to create those nice, crisp, clean lines that I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead and apply a nice even coat, working carefully around the edges, and then I'm going to allow that to fully dry and apply a second coat if necessary to achieve full coverage. Once I have a good base coat, it's time to add some color. And for this step, I like to use a Posca fine or medium tip paint pen in any realistic skin tone. In this case, I'm using a medium tip paint pen in beige. And as a side note, I always like to test my pen on some scrap fabric first to ensure that I'm happy with my paint color. We're going to apply a nice even coat using short, gentle strokes. And again, I'm going to allow that to fully dry and apply a second coat if necessary. For the next step, I'm going to select a fine tip paint marker in a slightly darker shade to create an outline as well as the line down the ballerina's back. And this step is just going to really add a little extra definition and dimension. Once again, I recommend that you test your paint color on some scrap fabric first to ensure that you're happy with your color. After I have applied all my paint, I want to let that all dry completely up to 24 hours before heat setting it with my craft iron. And to do that, I'm going to apply the heat to both sides of my fabric following the paint manufacturer's instructions. Once my paint has been heat set, I then can proceed with stitching the rest of my pattern according to the pattern instructions. Then going to remove any excess stick and stitch, and then I can rinse my fabric or throw it in the washer to fully remove that stick and stitch. After my fabric is completely dry, I attach the ballerina's tutu, adding my fabric back to my embroidery hoop if I prefer. And as a final step, I like to apply an iron-on stabilizer to the back of my fabric to neatly cover up the backside of my stitches and create greater comfort in the case of wearables. My tote bag is now ready to gift or use and enjoy.